How do you confront the elephant in the room? So many of us ignore it. We never confront it, and that elephant just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And Dr. Nick joins us now to help us slay that elephant.
Well, and as I say, we're not talking about obese people. Everyone, I really believe that everyone who's lived or who is alive understands the concept. There's an elephant in the room. Or there was an elephant in the room. Or when are we going to confront the elephant in the room?
I would say that most of us are dealing with somebody, if not currently, recently, where there's been that elephant in the room. And what did we do with the elephant?
Yes, well, first of all, let's at least give it some kind of operational definition. It's some kind of controversial issue. Or an issue that has disconnected people.
Sure.
And hurt the relationship or hurt in business, at home, families.
It's a fight, an argument, a disagreement.
It's something has happened that has estranged us a little bit from someone or some people. And the elephant becomes sitting there, we're aware of it, but we don't want to confront it because it's uncomfortable.
Right.
Because it could create more conflict. Because it could lead to more estrangement. And Whitney, that could be nothing further from the truth. The truth is that we really need to be aware of the elephants, and we need to talk about them.
Okay.
And really there's an elephant in this room that we need to talk about. And it may be something, again, that I'm thinking, let's see, a problem you've had maybe with a relative, okay? And you've been somewhat estranged, and all of a sudden you're thrown together at a party and you're sitting at the table.
Probably not going to bring it up then.
Well, but if it could, well, let's say, all right, maybe not at that moment, but
maybe before you sit down for dinner.
But you're looking for an opportunity to say, oh, we're together. Let's not just act like this didn't happen. Let's talk about it.
You know what I find so strange, and in a way, I'm just going to call it sick. Okay, because it's happened to me, and I was certainly party to it. Although I think most of the time I've interrupted it. But how about this friend that you're sideways with? And they say, let's go to lunch. Maybe it's for someone's birthday or your birthday. I'm just saying, or lunch. And you think, oh, good, we're going to talk about it. And then you sit there and dessert comes and you've still not talked about it. And then just because you've been together, that other person thinks, well, we're good now.
We're good now.
And you feel better, right, about the relationship. But we still haven't resolved that conflict. But anyway, a lot of times walk away and then the relationship kind of rebuilds. But you've really never talked about what happened.
Well, and what I think you bring up, at least from a human perspective, that person that you're with, they may have thought it was just an ant.
An ant?
An ant, no big deal. Oh. And they've moved on.
Oh.
In other words, you might think of it as a huge elephant, and the other person was like, what? I didn't realize that, which is why you bring it up.
Yeah.
It seems to me there's an elephant in the room, huh? Well, let me just get it out what happened, because, and then you might see that it was the point
that we could have overreacted.
Could have, but I still say you bring it up.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part about the elephant.
It is.
Somebody's got to be big enough to say, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
And the reason why, again, I think it's difficult is because we're afraid of how it will be handled, which is why it ought to be done with dignity, with a certain amount of professionalism, with objectivity. I want to understand what happened. What was my, in your opinion, what was my involvement? Did I do something that I need to be sorry for, or is this something that you want to be sorry for? The point is that we want to reconnect.
Yeah.
And when you think about the elephant, it's almost so big that you can't see each other for the elephant. That issue has, right? It's front and center.
Yeah, and it's completely blocked.
And you're walking around it, and it's like, wow.
In confronting that elephant, though, I'm reminded of what you always say. When you're talking about that elephant, you don't say, well, you did this, this, and this. I feel like. Always start with that.
And that's why I say you get a sense of what is my part in it. What is my part in it. But what is also so interesting, if you feel like there's an elephant in the room, you know what that also says?
Tell me.
That you value that person.
Oh.
Because you don't really care about the elephant if you don't care about the person.
Well said.
And that's why it needs to be brought up. It's because I love you, I respect you, you are a very significant part of my life, even if it's a co-worker.
Right.
I want to work with you and get along. This is bothering me. I need to get it out.
Yeah.
May not be bothering you, but usually it is.
Especially if they're honest about it.
It is. And remember, we're just sometimes so afraid that it's going to make a further disconnect when in fact...
Because it has before.
Well, but I think that it's much more amenable to a closer relationship. I don't have research to back it up, but I just believe when you talk it through with respect and openness and care and concern, you'll get through it.
Yeah.
Even if you resolve to say, we're not going to resolve it. Now we can move on to having fun.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that's
we're
where
just going to leave that
we're
there.
just going to leave it because we differ on it.
Yeah. I would say, though, probably 90% of the times that I've confronted the elephant in the room, it's always been better. How about for you?
Oh, me too, Whitney.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's only gone bad once or twice.
Me
and
too.
I consider it their stuff.
Well, and I also think to give credit to the person who brings it up, because they're being courageous in the midst
That
of the
is.
fear, and saying that we really need to get this worked through. You were going to say something.
I was going to ask if you wanted to tell a little bit about, you had that elephant in the room experience recently.
Yeah, with someone that I care for very much, and they had been estranged, and
You all were at dessert and then now talked about it, right?
and we were somewhere along the lunch. That was a real spontaneous lunch, which I love. I love spontaneity.
And so for that person to
so-
come and say, let's go do lunch.
Yeah, right. And
was
so
huge.
I'm like, okay.
It's courageous.
But again, 30 minutes into the lunch, I said, we've got to confront the elephant in the room. And this
that person did
said,
what?
Let's go.
Ooh, good.
And we talked it through, and it was just wonderful. Wonderful.
That's great.
Because there's another thing too about life that I think is important when we talk about the elephant. I remember saying to this person, I'm sorry this happened, and I know that our relationship has changed forever. But when we talked about the elephant, we became aware that the relationship changed, but it can get better. Different does not mean worse. Growth and change in a relationship, I think, just as an example, let's say someone who was the baby of the family. I'm just using it.
Sure.
They don't want to be the baby anymore when they're 50. So the relationship needs to change.
Right.
You see, it doesn't mean that it's dead. It means that it's moved into a new chapter.
Maybe it's evolving.
And it's evolving
I love that.
even more into an even more close relationship, deeper relationship.
I like that. All right. Don't be
Elephants.
afraid of the elephant in the room.
And one last comment.
Certainly.
Don't be afraid to think it might be an ant and I need to let it go.
Okay.
I just think, I know we didn't talk much about that, but we may sometimes build an elephant that's not there.
We do overblow things.
We can be hurt by something that the person didn't intend to hurt us with.
Right. Which, once again, is why you have to confront it.
And back to what we talked about last week, why you have to ask, what did you hear?
Yeah. What did you hear?
What did you hear? Because it's much more important for me that you heard what I was trying to say.
Right. And if I didn't, let me
And if I didn't,
rework that.
Let me
explain.
rework that, because
My
maybe I'm
intention.
not doing it right, but my intention is sound.
We've all got an elephant in the room. If we don't today, we might next month.
That's right.
With someone.
Have a great Sunday.
Thanks, Dr. Nick. More Weekends with Whitney after this.